all of a sudden I started seeing people that I knew from high school. And
always makes the dream.
Yeah, obviously. And they were in the pool, and I was just driving along, and they're like, "Hey, Jackie, you staying for the event?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "You know, the event." And I was like a swim, like the swim event. And they were like, "Yeah, like the swim meet." And I was like, no. And I just kept driving, and it was like these people that I would never talk to, and like this. It was so weird, and then I just kept going, and then I guess I just drove into my next dream. But like, then my next dream was, and this was like the meat of my dreaming, I was in this apartment. I guess this is funny, because it has to do with like, what, you'll see. So like, I woke up, and like, I didn't wake up, but the dream changed, and I was in this apartment, and apparently my family and I were living in this big apartment in Boston, near the courthouse.
Oh my god.
And, yeah, and like we were in there, and I was trying to find a costume, because me and Ramon and his friend Stefano were going to this party, and it was like a costume party, but like, you would have like a normal costume, but something about your costume has to be weird and fucked up and not right, so, I don't know, it was weird. Like, Ramon had like my bunny suit on, but then he had like bling and like other random shit on, so it was just like not right. So I was trying to find something to wear, and I couldn't find anything. So I was looking in my front hall, which was incidentally the same front hall as my house, but it was in this apartment. So I was looking through all this stuff, and like I had like this shelf of hats, and all these hats were like vintagey, like from the 90s snapbacks. And I was like, what shit? So I was like, cool, and I like grabbed one to go show Ramon, because he's like, he digs those hats, like he has them himself. He wasn't there, and they were in the apartment, so I was like, where'd they go? So I went outside to find them, and they were like getting into his car, and they're like, sorry man, the party awaits, and then they left. And I was like, what? So I was all bummed, and I was going back into the apartment, and then I get back into the lobby, and this black guy was like, I'm never letting that girl in again, you hear? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And then I went up to my room, and there was my friend Janelle, she's from high school. She's crazy.
Oh my God.
She's crazy. She was in my room with, like, she also figure skates with my brother, so she was with, like, 3 of her figure skating friends, and they were, like, all in my room drinking, and I was like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, we're bringing you to a party, and I was like, oh, cool, alright, and so they were like, yeah, but you need to bring money, because if you want to buy food, you have to bring money. And I was like, buy food at a party? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, who buys food at a party? And they're like, there's gonna be hot dogs and stuff. And I'm like, who buys hot dogs at a party? And she's like, I don't know, Ross made it up. And Ross is this kid at like in the figure skating club who's such a dick, and my whole family hates him. So I called him up, and I'm like, dude, do we have to like pay for the food at your party? And he was like, yeah. I was like, why? It's a party. He was like, that's how it is. And I just like was yelling at him, and like meanwhile Janelle was pouring me drinks of this like mystery alcohol that was seriously potent, and I just kept knocking him back while I was on the phone. So then once I get off the phone, I'm like gone. I'm literally like inebriated. Like, it was so lifelike. It was so weird. It was like the most lucid dream I've had in a while. And
that's crazy.
It was, and I was just like, meh. And I like sat myself down because I was just so fucked. And then I like tuned into what they were talking about. They were talking about me for some reason. This is the funny part. And then I sat down, and then all of a sudden, bitch across from me, like, lunges, like, between the space between us, tackles me onto my bed, and proceeds to make out with me. As soon as, like, we hit my bed, the door, like, bursts open, and in comes my whole dad's side of the family. They all come in, and they all like stop, and they're like, what the fuck is happening in here? What's going on? And my aunt, like, then the girl like jumps off me, and they disappear. They just disappear. They're gone.
Them hoes.
Yeah.
Isn't that always the way?
Yeah. Like, people just disappear. And my aunt, like, no, and then I get up from being laying down, and my cousin, my like 12-year-old cousin, is just sitting there like laughing at me, like like looking at me, staring at me, and I was just like, okay. And then my aunt, I look over at my aunt, she's just shaking her head. I'm like, and then and my dad's just like looking really like distraught. And then my other aunt was like, Jackie, seriously? Are you serious? And I'm like, what? So I leave the room because I'm like, I can't take this. And I go out and there's like a deck. So I go out onto my deck and it's like seriously like the windiest like weather ever. Like there's like some sort of crazy storm going on outside. And I'm like sitting there and like, you know, like on a deck they have obviously like the, like you can't fall off the deck. There's obviously like a
railing.
Yeah. So the railing was like made out of sheets of glass. And one of the sheets of glass was like gonna fall, so I like picked it up and took it off the railing, essentially, and like put it on the ground. And then this huge gust of wind like blew me back in, and I hit the door, and I was like, okay, I'm going back inside. So I went back inside, and everybody was just freaking out about something that was like unknown by me, and I was like, what's going on? And my dad was like, he sat me down, and he was like, listen, I did something not so legal. And I was like, what? And he was like, well, there's this guy at work, and he was like, he was taking all my ideas and like making a lot of money off of them and exploiting me, and like I didn't know what to do, so I had to do something, and now we're running from the cops. And I'm like, what? I'm just like, and then I woke up. So I'm thinking he killed somebody.